Nestro here as Yan Mole, and I'll tell you about my NDE that changed my life, most likely the day I broke my neck. In a lake near Saluda, North Carolina, I was floating. It was a warm day, and I was unwinding as the water touched my skin. Feeling thankful, I glanced up at the white fluffy clouds and trees around the lake. Since I was meditating once more, something I had begun 7 years before to my NDE, I felt appreciative. I was a U.S. Army Ranger in the Special Forces when I was younger. I went to meditate after the military. Training for war led me to discover war. After 3 journeys to Iraq, I found peace in meditation. I found conflict through my training. This lake restored my sense of tranquility, which I had trained for. I swam to a pier after spending a few serious moments in the water in meditation. I was attending a friend's party at this lake. I swam to a blue water slide that others were utilizing on a wooden dock. I moved in line up the stairs of this slide. It was a flimsy, outdated blue plastic water slide from a camp movie. I waited because the person in front of me plunged in headlong. Without thinking, I plunged headfirst down the slide. There was some spray on top and it was slippery from the falling water. I swung my arms back and dove headfirst into the water after racing down the slide. I hardly had time to take my hands off my face before I reached the bottom of the lake. I had no idea that area was barely 2 feet deep. I didn't know, but I'm sure others did. Smashed against the pebbles and sand, breaking my neck. I was in excruciating pain, but as soon as I heard a voice say, "Slow down," I resumed my meditation. At first, I thought I had been struck by lightning. I didn't understand what was causing the discomfort. It wasn't until my neck began to pain that I realized I had reached the bottom of the lake. My breathing stopped. I hauled myself out of the knee-deep water and stumbled forward. While doing this, I noticed floating in the air light spheres the size of basketballs, as a result of being rendered unconscious. They were entities or beings, as I now see, even if I didn't observe them much. I believe that these guardians, angels, and spirits come to prepare us for death, since I was very near to passing away. Friends recognize that something is wrong when I stagger out of the water and land on a bench. Even though my neck hurts, I'm not aware that it's broken. My medical military training informed me that I was in shock as they helped me lay on the bench. I had to lie down, raise my feet, and as soon as I was on this bench, a voice inside of me told me to leave. I told everyone nearby that I had to leave right away and attempted to use my arm to push myself off the bench and sit up. Rather than forcing myself up, I went off the bench face first into the gravel, partially paralyzing myself. There was a commotion all around me. I felt a car being lifted out from under my armpits by hands. In the car, they drove me to the hospital. After a 40-minute drive, scans revealed to the hospital that I had serious injury to my neck. If the car had halted suddenly after severing my back, I would have been dead in the head. I was told that I needed help from a team for emergency surgery. I had a complicated procedure that required an overnight stay in the hospital. The following day was the procedure. It may seem horrible, but I was practicing meditation the way that monks and professors in monasteries had instructed me to do. To notice my body's sensations and attempt not to resist or wish them away. As I worked on it, it evolved. I managed to bear the heat as it burned my body. It reminds me of riding waves. Surfers get ecstatic when they feel this energy, yet they tumble and get wounded if they fall. I was in excruciating pain all over my body, including my neck, but it wasn't pain. It was quite the transformation. I was offered morphine, but I turned it down. Even if I die, I want to be with this pain. I have to be very aware of my final breath. All I was doing in this hospital room was breathing, concentrating on the agony. Within 2 hours, pain took control. I writhed in agony after falling off the surfboard. It was too intense for me, and I said, "Yes, okay, I'll take morphine." At that point, something strange occurred. While I was on the stretcher, the nurse appeared to gradually turn down the lights. My heart stopped because I was too weak to withstand the strong morphine surge, and I felt like I was being drawn into a tunnel and moved backwards when I realized, I'm actually dying. On the monitor behind me, I could hear my heart stopping. Then fear gripped me as I observed nurses entering the room through an ever-expanding tunnel. But when they charged into the room, a wave of fear and mind washed over me, reviving me. It was the first time I had truly left and experienced the near-death, out-of-body sensation. I could feel myself returning through the tunnel and into my body. The next day would bring yet another. I was lying on the stretcher wearing a neck brace, getting ready for surgery the following day. I felt confined in 2020 during COVID-19 since my mask kept falling over my eyes because of the neck brace. I felt as though I could only meditate because I was in a box, possibly the tiniest meditation chamber or cell I've ever visited. When the nurses took off the mask, I asked them where my body would go. After giving me the sedative, I remember being out of my body and standing at a doorway. They said, "Oh, well, we're going to take you to surgery." I said, "No, it's for some reason very important that I know exactly where my body goes." They replied, "Okay, we'll take you down the hallway, to this elevator, up to this floor, and to this room, and then we'll begin surgery, and then we'll bring you back down, and you'll wake up in this room." The doorway hung amid the emptiness and space. There were 6 luminous entities in front of me and stars in the distance despite the darkness. They were 11 feet tall, and I felt that the entryway was 15 feet tall, but we'd finished a lengthy conversation. I was out of my body, and these creatures were intelligent. The surgery took about 6 hours. I was unable to recall the things they showed me or the topics we discussed. I'll explain what I see behind me in a moment, but after surgery, I began to remember more. This is the vision they gave me, and I'm supposed to show it to as many people as I can. I spoke with these beings at a doorway, and we came to an agreement. The first stipulation of the agreement was that you would not recall anything we said or anything you saw, as you would be obsessed with talking about it. Work was needed for the second agreement. Once I got home from the hospital, I realized what my goal and task were. I see these amazing light beings with a dark center because of energy when I stand at the boundary. Their luminous borders were all I could see because my spiritual vision was too low to discern them clearly. A calming blue glow replaced the white light surrounding them. 5 other creatures, some of whom seemed feminine, and some of whom felt masculine, surrounded the one who was standing forward and spoke to me. They all seemed intelligent and kind and were getting ready for something. That was unknown to me. I was told of the deal, said farewell, had my spiritual body turned away from them, and then I started to return, either through space or a tunnel, toward Earth. My body was shortly lying on a stretcher. I felt like a pinwheel, rubber, or a rainbow energy fan as I ran. Here, on this rainbow-bodied individual, is where I embroidered it. I then approached my body, which was strapped to a stretcher. I felt blissful and at ease before I came back to my physical form. I understood I wasn't dead or paralyzed, and I was ecstatic and happy when I rapidly opened my eyes and began moving my hands and feet. I spent 3 days in the hospital before returning home after the nurses told me to sit down. You just came out of surgery. You have to relax. I was in severe pain. My recuperation was not easy. But a month after I left the hospital, the purpose or work of these creatures started to show themselves. I want to sew and embroider a little rose, even though I'm not an artist and served in the military. This was completed on a small piece of cloth in the tapestry's middle. Even though I had never sewn before, I felt happy, at ease, and in love the moment I began. I was thrilled and grinned while I started sewing. When the rose was done, I continued stitching and added a little dog, a tree, flowers, a butterfly, and more fabric. I started to remember my time as a Buddhist monk in Sri Lanka and to see some of the images these beings had shared with me. This is peculiar because I recently took a plane all the way to Sri Lanka and visited an island in a little lagoon that reminds me of my former life as a monk, Nimali, which I continue to use. Throughout World War II, as a British soldier, I read Buddhist texts, which inspired me to become a monk. During this incarnation, I was inspired to meditate and become a monk by Buddhist teachings I discovered in Iraq. Near this existence, I went back to Pogas Dua, also known as Coconut Island, which is close to Kalutara, in Sri Lanka. I arrived at this island by rowing, went barefoot down a trail, and spoke with a Buddhist monk. It was a strange moment of realizing multiple lifetimes and that my energy had changed since being a soldier. He asked me, "What are you doing here?" I replied, "Well, I've been sewing a tapestry. I can remember being a monk in a past life, and I remember being here on this island." He continued, "Well, I also remember being here in a past life, and I remember being your teacher. Tomorrow I'll be different." Early on, after breaking my neck, I was still sewing in Asheville, North Carolina, and felt pulled to come to Costa Rica so that I could continue sewing and reconnect with the land. I was stitching on the beach beneath the palm trees when I thought back to one of the things I had seen when I had left my body. Survivors of near-death experiences sometimes mention visiting a hall of records, often referred to as the Akashic Records. These enormous bookcases are open for public viewing. They can read about a previous life and occasionally last forever. Some people can enter the tapestry chamber and witness a huge, beautiful tapestry being woven by itself, with each thread symbolizing a human life, spirit, or angel. This may be because they are more artistic or less bookish. While some human lives are saintly or have a high vibration, others are unhealthy, malevolent, or dark. Examined separately, a thread can be thick and golden like a rope, whereas another might be black, thin, and sickly. Pulling back to see the entire tapestry reveals that it is expertly woven and entirely made of energy. Nothing is wrong. Although I have just lately begun to discuss my nearly 4 years of sewing in silent meditation, I have always shared the message that although it may appear like a lot of people are suffering, they really are, and that our times are violent, confusing, and dark. Some places people meditate, do yoga, sing, hold ritual meetings, keep quiet, and show love to their elders, friends, and children. Taking a step back, you see that every one of us is a unique and essential thread in a larger picture. Collectively, we are producing something amazing, and each of us has a crucial role to play. Because of our limited viewpoint, we are not always able to observe something in the actual body. However, we have a more expansive viewpoint following near-death experiences and emergence from the body. We can sit in isolation and comfortably experience this perspective without having to pass away or come dangerously close to it. The lesson for the future, I believe, is to not be fearful, because each of us is exactly where we should be and have chosen to live. It's fantastic that you are seeing this, since you are a human being having a singular experience. The world needs our collective healing right now. Everyone takes part. The future appears bright to me. In addition to further harm and bloodshed, I anticipate beauty, healing, and unification. I also anticipate a large turnout of phones and in-person gatherings to exchange energies. I believe there will also be a reawakening of those abilities we had forgotten we have, particularly the capacity to heal one another and ourselves. One of the most important things we can do today and in the future, in my opinion, is to spend time in nature, in the forest, on the sea, in rivers, and in lakes, and get a sense of its peace. Due to the fact that nature changes in step with the world, we may better anchor ourselves and avoid getting sucked into the web of negativity on the world by re-establishing our connection to the forest and untamed surroundings. The river and trees are transforming. One notion that frequently occurs to me, which I believe can be beneficial to discuss, is the idea that the globe is a body with cities destroyed or affected by conflict acting as scabs, sores, or wounds on the planet, and nature acting as the planet's healing skin that is regrowing. We'll believe the planet is sick if we only see the wounds. We can rebuild the skin and ground if we turn away from the wounds and concentrate on the natural world, trees, and small gardens. All in all, I'm trying to stitch and convey a peaceful garden. For fun, there's a lizard. I see the world as a huge garden that we can all contribute to making beautiful, because we all live there. We can always cultivate plants or flowers that make other people happy. We could alternatively convert the garden into industries, metal, concrete, and asphalt, which would be unpleasant and uncomfortable for everyone. It may not be the best use of the garden if we fill it with cell phone towers and restless vibration that causes anxiety. I believe that the message I will carry throughout my life is that everything is simply like a lovely, tranquil garden. If more people adopt this perspective, I believe we will be able to heal the globe and come to understand that everything, the planet, Earth, universe, and galaxies, has a purpose. Earth heals. Sickness comes and goes. We will know just what to do to heal ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, and our little piece of the garden, while also sharing its beauty and tranquility as we tune in, meditate, and quiet down. Yes, I do have some hopeful news for you. Even though we are going through a really difficult period, you might compare it to an addict who reaches their lowest point, wakes up, gets healthy and clean, and then motivates others. The globe appears to be doing that right now. The world is, in my opinion, healing and inspiring us, and as we heal, we will motivate others. Do the 6 creatures I met feel, see, and hear me? Do they intend to leave us with a message? I get some tiny goosebumps and a lovely feeling when I think about it, so I always feel like they're about. I also occasionally see them, especially when I'm having a good conversation with a friend or family member. They often come close to the person I'm speaking with, appearing to me as a diamond-sized light hovering in the air. Occasionally, while I'm stitching by myself, I notice a flash of light and realize they're nearby. They appear briefly as light or as a concentrated point of energy because they have no physical form, and we perceive everything in 3 dimensions, which is fantastic. This serves as a powerful reminder that they exist. The first thing I take away from them now is that it's not the end. The most crucial thing to do is to set aside some time during the day to sit down in a peaceful position with our eyes closed, fold our legs in a peaceful manner, and simply be in awe. We are not at the end of the world. Rather, we are at a turning point in incredible change. The beauty that lies ahead and the change that is coming is almost beyond what we can imagine, and for good reason. However, the message for the future is one of hope, accepting that this is a normal course of events, and that each of us has the inner strength, spiritual power, love, and connection to the source necessary to endure and fulfill our purpose for existing. I get shivers thinking about the era we live in, but I love how we're getting along. I'm just a regular person who lives in Costa Rica and sues. In the past, the only news footage we saw came from professional media outlets, and the stories were highly produced and tailored to either sell us a particular version of events happening in the globe or make money. But now, as more and more of us come to terms with the fact that love sharing, and peace are our primary goals in life, spreading these teachings rekindles that powerful, positive spiritual energy, and the connections form swiftly, heightening serendipity. To meditate, all you need is a single silent moment. These light beings I met informed me that things will only get better on a spiritual level, and that our purpose in life is to grow and learn.